Theme tune, please, Maestro.
Craig, Chris, and Andy.
Always have to ruin the audio at the start, don't you? Always have to ruin the audio.
That's
Right.
good. All right. How's it going?
Not too bad. Part 3 of this successful afternoon delight. I think we're getting some headway now, guys. A lot of views on YouTube. I think 98 and 70 for the 2 videos. So onto a winner, I think.
The email account. Have we had many emails?
So we've had 2. We've had 2 emails now. So we had a welcome from Outlook, which I thought was really nice. And we've had a password reset, which I found most useful, but nothing as regards fans or any kind of feedback. So so it's only been a few weeks. Still hopeful. Yeah.
So the message is obviously we've probably each looked at the YouTube videos a couple of times to go and see how many people are looking at it. So if there is 50 or 60 genuine people that have clicked on it, maybe watched a bit of it, watched the whole thing, who knows? If any of those people are actually watching it, then if they could please share it on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, anywhere, Twitter, just to try and if we can get 60 people to share it with 2 people each, then I'm not very good with numbers, but that's going to exponentially grow, isn't it?
Oh, Andrew, beautiful word.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe.
And what's it called? What's the YouTube channel called?
YouTube channel. I have no idea what the YouTube channel is called, Andrew.
I think it's just Afternoon Delight.
It's just Afternoon Delight, I believe.
Afternoon Delight CCA.
No,
Afternoon Delight CCA. Or was it Afternoon Delight?
Stick it in the search engine and it'll come up.
Stick it in the search engine. But Facebook, obviously we've got the videos on there and stuff. And the most frustrating thing is I've got 417, I think, followers, and I think 51 of which have liked the page. So hopefully we'll get a few more likes and a bit more shared. We'll wait and see. It's a bit depressing though when you put a post out there and you get 2 likes, one from your mom, one from your sister. It's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
What's the story regarding us going live tonight? So we're recording this as we have done the other 2. So what's the issue?
We put the message out there that, again, I don't know if anyone saw or many people saw, but really wanted to go live, try and get some interest there, because people who are on Facebook can log in at that point, or YouTube, but it just hasn't happened. We've tried Facebook and you can't do it with 2 people off an Android or a laptop, has to be off iPhone. And YouTube, the streaming software, audio-wise, this isn't working. We can do it, but it's echoing. So again, we just haven't been able to go live. So we'll keep trying, keep testing, see what we can do. Otherwise, it'll just be pre-recorded videos as we have been uploading them. But hopefully, people are actually watching them and kind of enjoying them, because that's the whole point of it, isn't it? So.
Well, the one positive that we should say before we get into tonight's chat is that we must be doing something right, because Peter Crouch, Chris Stark, and Tom Fordyce have been forced into releasing a series 4 of two podcasts a week of the Peter Crouch podcast. So there's obviously a little bit of a threat that they've seen from our Afternoon Delight, and they've been forced into action.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to, but I got asked to go into the one show myself, but I said there's no need. Do you know what I mean? We'll get ourselves out there ourselves. We don't need that kind of support. But I see Peter Crouch done the other day. I don't know, desperate. That's what I'm saying.
He didn't even plug it very well, did he? He didn't even say what day of the week or anything.
Exactly.
Awful.
Desperation.
So if I'm sure we'll get to those sort of levels fairly quickly if our 60 people can share with a friend.
Well, this is it. I mean, it would help, Andrew, if you maybe liked the Facebook page. You would probably help us out a little bit. Because I think me and Chris have liked it, but I'm pretty sure you haven't, Andy. So maybe you could help us out a little bit.
I was under the impression that come 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night, once this is over, Chris tries to completely blank it out of his mind until 8:30 the following
week. He's only laughing because it's true. Anyway, so that's that. I believe we've had a birthday amongst us as well since the last show.
Have we?
Have
I
we?
think we have. Christopher?
Well, is it really a birthday?
Well, yes, I believe it is.
In lockdown, it's never easy, is it? But a birthday's a birthday, so we should acknowledge it, shouldn't we, as part of this broadcast?
Well, in
Indeed.
fairness, I have become another year older. However, we'll celebrate another time, shall we?
Yeah.
Indeed, we shall. Yes. Cheers.
In a local pub somewhere.
Indeed, we shall. Okay.
Cheers.
Let's move on then to this week's discussion then. Moved away from the naming the 11 onto VAR. So just a discussion on VAR. It's been, I don't know, lots of issues this season with it being introduced, which naturally there would be, but some, I think, real serious ones that fans have been really a bit pissed off with, basically. So let's just get a general viewpoint from each of you on what you think on VAR. We'll have a chat, and then we'll look at some of the new stuff that's coming in for next season, if this season even finishes. But the next season, they've got a few new rules and whatnot, VAR-wise and other, which we can discuss. So, Andrew, go on. What's your opinion on VAR this season?
I think when it first came about that it was going to be implemented, I was kind of like not sure if it's really needed. I was always very much on the page of it's when you go into work on a Monday after you played on a Saturday and you can discuss the decisions that have gone for you, the ones that have gone against you. And I always thought that was part of the enjoyment of football was that it wasn't perfect and that there were always things that would go for and against you. And obviously you'd hope over the balance of a season that it would even itself out. And obviously going along to the games, going to watch Liverpool play, I think you hate it when you're on the wrong end of a decision, but sometimes when they go for you, then obviously it, as I say, it kind of evens itself out. But I think once I understood the technology and what they were going to do, I was probably more on the page of, okay, well, if it's going to sort out the stuff that's not clear and obvious, then great. But I think as the season has transpired, I think whilst it probably does even itself out in most cases, that there's been way too much ambiguity about when they go to VAR, how they go to VAR, particularly this thing around referees. There's a monitor. I can see at Anfield from where I sit that there's a monitor which is like literally in the tunnel area, so it's just off the side of the pitch. And for some of the decisions that happen, for the amount of time that it takes them to sort out from wherever they're looking at it at Stockley Park, for the referee to run over to the side of the pitch and have a look at the monitor and give all the fans the comfort that he's been over and had a proper look, then come back and made the right decision, then I think surely for the future that's the way it's got to go. Because at the moment it just seems that it's there, but it's still a bit too open-ended as to whether the decision lies with the referee, whether the decision lies with the people in Stockley Park, and ultimately, obviously, the fans and the players on the pitch want the proper answer, don't they? So,
yeah. Christopher?
In general, I agree. I don't necessarily agree with the point about going to work on Monday morning and discussing whether a decision was right or wrong. I think if we can get closer to 100% correct decisions, I think that's beneficial to the game because it adds to the fairness of it. What could be good, I think, in the future is potentially if we, like a tennis or a cricket system, if we were to add like a team could potentially have 3 challenges or something like that.
Yeah.
Rather than something like that, but my biggest issue is that it's still human error. It's human decision at the end of the day. When it goes to Stockley Park, it's still another person's opinion. Another person's looking at it and making a decision based on what he sees. Whereas the referee, if he did go to the monitor, he could completely disagree. So that's the thing that bugs me. But I don't know what the way around that is. Either way, and the one other thing that sticks out for me is there's been a lot of controversy with offside decisions this year. With like, there's been 3 or 4 armpits being offside.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think about that. Whether you think that's beneficial or not. But like when they've been like literally like a millimetre or 2 offside, and they've been given offside, whereas people are like, that's not clear and obvious. We can't see. They look in line to me, but the technology is telling me he's an armpit offside.
Yeah.
Is that beneficial or not? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, this is it for me. Offside is a big one for me because at one point, if I think about a decision this season with Pookie for Norwich against Spurs, that offside decision was ludicrous. But technically, according to the technology, if it's perfect, he was offside. But then how do you change the rules? If it's offside, it's offside. The problem is the cameras. How do you know the point where he's kicked it is perfectly when that line is when he's? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the problem for me. And until you get that 100% perfect, it's always going to have issues. I really don't know. There's been suggestions by Souness, I think, a few months ago that said, how about a yard either way or something like that.
That's a bit much for me. That.
But even that, I think, throws it open to still, or is that a yard? I still think there'll be issues with that. So I think you've got to go with, at the moment, as they've said, offside is offside, but that's what's caused, like you say, Chris, the most debate this season, the offside ones, because some of them have just been absolutely stupid.
I think that thing around the Souness one might not be perfect, but I think that it's got potential to be the solution, because if you think about it, the whole thing with offside is always about whether the attacker has gained an unfair advantage by being ahead of the player. But if it's his armpit or his stud or his fingernail or whatever it is that's offside, because they're using the perfect line they're using the perfect calculation of whether a part of him is offside or not. For me, that's too clinical. Whereas if you were to say you allowed a certain distance ahead of the defender for it to be deemed as not gaining an advantage, then, so for example, if his armpit's offside, then you don't give offside for that. But if X amount of his body is ahead of him, or all of his body is ahead of him, then that should then be offside, because he's clearly receiving or getting the ball at a point at which he's already got an unfair advantage over the defender. The only thing with that though then is that you'll then be talking about things like if it's Mohamed Salah up against, I don't know, bloody some tall defender who's not very quick, you'd be saying, well, if Mo Salah's got any sort of advantage on this defender, it's unfair advantage because he's going to be too quick for him. Whereas if he's up against a defender who's deemed to be a quicker defender, then you'd say, well, actually, he should have been able to get back to him, and he isn't. So,
well, this is it. I think Souness also proposed any part of you onside.
I did see that. But again, you're still going to get the millimetre decisions there, aren't you?
Of course you would, and also you'd be able to play on that. You'd be able to hold your foot. I just don't think it would work. So, I think offside still is going to be issues. And I don't think any of the amendments for next season have mentioned that or suggested that.
I think that would probably be beneficial for offside is if we simply went with the clear and obvious thing. You know what I mean? Like, some decisions have been ridiculous in the past before VAR came in. So I literally think if they play the video and you can clearly see whether they're onside or offside, then you make the decision. Otherwise, you just see it away as a referee error.
Would that be to the ref at Stockley Park, or would that be the ref seeing it on the monitor?
Either way, I mean, we've all got eyes. We can see whether it's clear and obvious. If someone's, I mean, some of them where they're literally having to draw the most intricate of line and they're taking 5-10 minutes to make a decision, that's too much. Whereas if you can see where someone's a yard on or a yard off, or even a foot on or a foot off, or a few inches, you can see it with your eyes, can't you?
But then again, everyone's got different opinions, haven't they? And it's that interpretation. So when we did a refereeing course, Andy, if you agree, there's always 70% of it is or 30% is a referee's discretion or whatever, or his choice. Or problem with that is, again, so if you're going to say that, well, is that much, or at what point do you think, well, that's obvious or that's not, and everyone's opinion is going to be completely different. So in that sense, scrap VAR and have it as it was. Or
I mean, if you can see it without the need of drawing lines, then I think that should be obvious.
Okay. I don't know. I agree. If it shows a line literally by the side of each other, literally like that, and that's offside, then surely a referee's gonna have to go to there and go, look, it's not obvious. Give the goal.
Yeah,
But
I
what
mean,
you say,
or if they did just draw a line on and it's obvious that way, then fine. But if you're drawing a line and you still can't tell, then just let it go,
Yeah.
even if he is a millimetre or so offside.
yeah, I agree. There's too many offsides that have been just so stupid. A heel offside or something. It's got to stop, hasn't it? That sort of stuff. And we all know it. Everyone can tell afterwards. But again, it's a heated game, isn't it? And how long does it take to make those decisions? That's the thing that annoys me about VAR. There's two things. One, the amount of time it takes them to actually decide how long, and also I've lost my train of thought now. Someone's just posted a comment on YouTube. It's just popped up on my screen.
That's very exciting. Pause your thought.
What's your thought?
Are they praising our live stream attempt?
Well, I don't know. I'll talk about that in a minute. So how long it actually takes to make a decision, which just pisses me off. And then, as a striker or player, whatever, scoring a goal, can you celebrate now? Can you actually celebrate a goal?
Well, that's that. I was hoping we were going to get onto that afterwards, because that was one of the things that I was going to talk about afterwards. Before we talk about celebrations, because that's a big that particularly going into live matches, that's become a real issue. Before we get to that, what's the role of the linesman in all of this then? So if offsides now are going to be deemed to be, if it's close, they're going to go to VAR, and if it's not, then they're not. Then what's the point of a linesman in the modern game?
Well, first of all, Andy, this is a referee, so let's get this right. All right, linesman went years ago. All right.
Okay.
I can't remember whether it was a game, whether it was for or against Sheffield United. I can't remember. It was a few months ago. And the linesman. What was that? The linesman flagged for an offside, but the attacker carried on, put the ball in the net. All the defenders stopped, but the attacker carried on, just put the ball in the net, and VAR intervened, said and sort of showed that he was actually onside, so the goal had to be given, even though the linesman had flagged, and the play had stopped essentially.
Exactly, and this is it. So, a few of those have happened. I've seen as well. So, but the linesman, assistant referee, shouldn't flag. Sure, they should not flag at all. They should just not bother. I mean,
it makes them obsolete then, doesn't it?
It does. Throw-ins, and then what else? Showing that there's going to be a sub holding the old flag up. Is that what else? Not because just play on, and let the play flow until the end result, whether that be a goal or whatever else, and then once the goal's in, let's check. Even if it's a completely obvious offside, let it go, and then stop it and go, yeah, that was offside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's something to think about, isn't it? I haven't really thought about that, Andy, to be honest with you. I hadn't even considered that point, but they are pointless. They choose throw-ins. And that's really it.
Referee could do that, and they get most of those wrong and get overruled by the referee anyway.
Exactly. Keeper on the lines. That's again an assistant referee will do that, but again, is that even needed? No, because you can go to the cameras, can't they?
Not with video referee anymore.
Well, exactly. So,
although they don't really implement that rule, do they? Very often. Sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't.
Well, this is it.
And the lines, the assistant referees, they're very rarely keep up with play anyway. So they're sticking their flag up for offside just on a whim half the time.
Yeah, I know. So okay, go on. Yes, Andy.
Yes. I was just going to ask you about what your thoughts are on. I mean, on goal celebrations. I've got my view because of going to the live games. What's your view of how it's affecting celebrations of bearing in mind football's an emotional game?
Yeah, I completely hate it because me watching it, whether it be live or sat in my living room, football on TV. If like Liverpool team score, I don't want to celebrate it. You can't stand up and shout and scream. You're just waiting. You just sat there waiting, and I literally don't either, I don't know, punch the air or anything until the ball's kicked off afterwards. So you lose that initial kind of euphoria as soon as they've scored because you're just like, okay, wait.
Yeah, you question it, don't you?
Yeah, and then it's more of, instead of rapture and being so happy, it's more, our relief it's been given.
Yeah, it's just
And that,
imagine if it's like skimmed someone's hand in the build-up of this play and they've got to rule the goal out or something like that.
exactly. And I just think it's become rubbish, really, for that. I hate it. I really do. It's really changed the game in that sense. It's horrible. You cannot celebrate anything because anything can be taken away from you, and I hate it.
The one that sticks in my mind was when what's his name? Was it Neres, the kid from Wolves that scored at Anfield? Was it Neres? Is it Neres, Chris? That young left winger, he's decent little player.
That's,
Not Neres. I know. I wanted to say Neves. I know it's not Neves, but it's he's at Is it Spanish?
no,
Number 7. Or is he Brazilian? Is it Neres?
No, I can't remember his name.
Look him up, Craig. Got to get it right. When you come up with his name, he scored a goal at Anfield, a really nice goal, and he ran off and celebrated, slid on his knees, and was giving it the big un. And fair play to him because he'd scored a nice goal, and it's probably his first one in the Premier League. And then it was his Neto. That's him.
Yeah.
And after a massive celebration, sliding on his knees, and I said then. Was it his stud was offside or something?
Yeah,
they got chalked off.
That was like a millimetre offside goal, wasn't it?
So the pure elation of probably scoring your first goal in the Premier League away at the Premier League.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then it was disallowed. I mean, that's the thing. It's sucking the joy out of scoring goals. And like you say, I go to the games, and even when I watch them on the telly, it's like you watch and you start to celebrate, and then you go, but you're constantly looking and thinking, is it going to get chalked off? So that's really frustrating.
So, but how do you change that?
Well, you can't, can you? It's if you're gonna have VAR and it's got the potential to go to a video review, then that you have to assume that there's a good reason why it's gone to a video review, and then it's been chalked off for offside or whatever kind of infringement. The really stupid thing for me is that the problem is there's certain things that are happening on the pitch that they're going to VAR for that you that when you're watching a game or you're in the stadium, you literally cannot understand what they're looking at. So I remember, I think it was almost the very first game at Anfield that I went to in the season when they had VAR. And about 3 or 4 minutes into the match, I don't know whether you remember this because I think it was on TV, but about 3 or 4 minutes into the match, the ball went out for a goal kick, and out of absolutely nowhere, it came up on the score ticker thing. It said VAR checking possible red card. I was like, what? It's like we're 4 minutes into the game and they're checking a possible red card. I'm like, could you imagine if a red card had been given after 3 minutes of the very first game of the season or something? It can completely change the course of the season, and nobody in the stadium, everyone was like, who was it? I think it ended up being that as the ball had gone out of play, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold had clattered or come into contact with the guy who was trying to keep the ball in play or something, and I maybe with some he might have looked like he could have stamped on him or trod on his hand or done something, and it was like possible red card. You're thinking, what? So that's where it can be a bit mad sometimes, the things that they're looking at, and you don't really understand.
But on the other side of the coin, imagine if Trent had have stamped on someone and the referee just missed it, and he does deserve to go off.
Yeah, true.
So in that thing, so talking about the new rules for next season, right? This is the communication and stuff has kind of been discussed a lot anyway pre this. But the International Football Association Board, it rejected providing supporters with a chance of hearing the conversations between match officials during a VAR review.
Yeah, I think that would be great, like in rugby.
Well, to hear the conversations.
Yeah, to hear the
would. They've rejected it, so it's not going to happen. I'm sure possibly in the future it may happen. The reason it can't happen in football, I can tell you now, the reason it can't happen in football is because the swearing. Football, if you look at football and rugby reviews, they can talk to the players, you can hear them on the mic, there's no swearing, it's respectful, okay, no problem, that's fine. Football, it's awful, it's rife for swearing and foul language and abuse for the referee, massively. So you just couldn't have the mic because it would just be profanity basically down all the time. So how'd you get around that?
Do we start punishing players for actual actual disrespect to the referee like they're supposed to.
I'm all for that, but you'd see red card after red card after red card.
Yeah,
Is that
but
what's
it's soon learned, though, wouldn't they?
They would. I agree. I'm all for it. I'm all for every time a player swears at a referee, sent off. I'm all for it. But
That's a good. That could be potentially a good topic for another day around the modern footballer and things that they get away with. You know, the money, the behaviour on the pitch, behaviour off the pitch.
It's shocking the swearing towards the referee. You can blatantly see it when you're watching the football. It's awful. And obviously, then how they then influence other younger kids watching. Do you know what I mean? It's shocking. So I don't think you could have that. They haven't given reasons why. So I don't know what the reasons are for it. I haven't disclosed it, but I can only imagine it's because of the language. They can't trust that there won't be swearing and stuff. So, so that's rejected. Other things then coming in. Just before we go into that, VAR decisions. Do we know who's benefited most from VAR this season? Just as a question.
Go on.
Any idea?
Is there a league table?
There's been a lot of talk of Liverpool, but I don't think they're top of it. I don't think they're top.
No, they're not.
I swear it's someone.
They're not
like, it's like United or something.
That's correct. Man United have benefited more from VAR than any other team this season. Yes, they have.
Surprise! They're probably ones that are talking Liverpool more than anyone else, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are, and that's where the frustration comes because I think we've got. If you look at the scoring, the way it's scored, we're +1. United are +8. Reading have benefited massively as well from decisions this season. Well, +7. But yeah, Man United at the top. There's a whole list of who's benefited. So that's just interesting to sort of think about, isn't it? The fact that Man United are like this Liverpool things out there, and I think it's just because of where Liverpool are and the decisions that have happened. So you think about the Wolves game. What happened in that game, and then what was the other Liverpool game, Andy, where there was a decision that went our way?
Well, there's been a few, hasn't there? But then there's been lots of ones. I think Roberto Firmino against Aston Villa was one of the armpits offside incidents that went against us. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Mane's goal against United
have been clear and obvious, though. I don't think they've been like, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that often the decisions Liverpool have got have been obvious. Like, you can't complain about them. You genuinely
on that light, got a Wolves fan. We have a Liverpool fan. I thought we'd discuss the Liverpool Wolves game where we had a couple of decisions on there that were a bit debatable. Van Dijk handball before the Liverpool goal. Where do we stand with that? Are we saying that was a handball? Are we saying that wasn't a handball?
Can't remember it, to be honest.
I don't remember it. It sort of brushed up and it sort of looked like it hit his arm.
It's such a tough subject at the moment.
Yeah, it is.
I think based on the current rules, it probably was a handball.
See, I won't say anything. I'll stay the neutral in all of this. Andy, what are your thoughts on that? If you remember it or take your mind.
I can't remember it, but whereabouts on his arm did it hit him?
It's meant to hit the top of his arm. I personally don't think it hit his arm. From what the video are seeing, Chris is going to go mental. I don't think it hit his arm, but it looks like it hits the top of his arm here. So not the shoulder. It looks like it hits below the arm. If it hit anywhere, it hit below the arm here, which would crack the handball.
Does he lean into it as if he's trying to chest it or something?
To hit his knee and hit his arm. It springs up, I think.
I feel as though it's sort of slightly away from his body, and that's why I say, because generally like handball is such a difficult argument at the moment.
Yeah,
because I don't agree with the handball rule. Like, if it touches someone's hand in the build-up of play, then it's a no goal. I don't agree with that in the slightest, because unintentional handball is unintentional handball. It's not really.
Well, in that then, as we're talking about handball, so for next season, there's been changes to the handball rule, which I'll read out. So for the first time in the laws of the game, the arm is defined for handball, with officials having previously defined the use of the whole of the arm as handball. While attacking handball has also been clarified by the IFAB, though not changed, meaning a handball relating to the goal must be one of the following three: handball, then a goal; handball followed by a pass, then a goal; handball, which then falls to a teammate who passes the ball, which then results in a goal.
So all those would be considered handball.
Yeah.
So basically, they're not improving at all from this season.
Well, so if it directly leads to a goal, because there's been a few handballs this season where it's happened like 2 minutes before, then there's a goal, and then it's like, oh, central handball in the build-up because the ball isn't going to play, and it's like, what? So that will stop that kind of thing.
Do any of those new rules have an impact on the Virgil van Dijk one we were just talking about, though?
Well, if I recall rightly, the ball springs up. If we're saying it hits his arm, and then he plays the ball through. So it would be disallowed.
He got the assist, didn't he?
Yeah.
Van Dijk.
So that would be allowed.
Fair enough. Then, if that's the new rule and that's how it's applied, then that goal wouldn't have stood or shouldn't.
But
have stood.
I think that goal wouldn't have stood anyway. I think the referee would have.
I think based on the current rules, it still wouldn't have stood. I just don't think they viewed it as handball at the time.
That's the thing. I don't think they viewed it as handball at the time, and that was the issue. But so that was that. And then we obviously had the offside, which we've mentioned as well. So again, how do we see that? I know we'll come back to the offside thing again, I guess. We're touching on it again. But how do we see that, Chris? Did you just think it was just an unfortunate thing and an issue with the rules, offside rule, or did we think it was a bit?
I think that we have to trust the technology with blind faith.
Yeah.
If the technology is correct, then the fact of the matter is he was offside, whether it be a millimetre, whether it be a foot, he's offside. So rules are rules. That's the way I see it. I think there's been a lot of complaints about offside, but if the technology is right, then it's getting the decision correct based on what the rules say. So I can't complain at that.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Andy? The same?
Yeah, you have to set the same. I think again, if the technology is set up correctly and it's applied in exactly the same way in every single game, and the guy's offside, and that's the way it's going to be, then he's offside. And then equally, if it happens down the other end of the pitch, and the Liverpool players or another team player is offside, in this particular game, we're talking about Wolves and Liverpool. But if any other player is offside, then that's how it should be. Yeah. Wasn't the goal that Van Dijk, when Van Dijk supposedly or did handball it, and then we went up the other end and scored? Was the goal itself controversial, if I remember rightly, or was it not controversial? Was it Mane that scored it?
Mane scored it, I think.
Did he? Was there not some suspicion that he might have handballed in as he scored it or something? Or am I thinking of a different goal?
I think it was a different goal. I think that issue with that one was just Van Dijk, was it, Chris? I think.
I think so. Yeah,
I believe so.
There
was another one, Andy, that was questioned about Mane and whatnot. Pushed on a defender, wasn't it?
Also, there was a Lallana goal that went on to VAR as well, wasn't there? That was
an obvious shoulder, though. That one, wasn't it?
That against Wolves as well, was it?
I don't think it was. No,
that was later.
Yeah, I think it was a different game.
Okay, so that's that one. Then what was the one?
What was what?
Oh, is it just those two incidents in that game that you were referencing?
Yeah, just the two references, just to see what you guys thought. Because I had a lot of feedback.
I would like to get you two's opinion on, as Liverpool fans, though. I don't know if you remember. You probably will. The Trent handball against Man City.
Oh Christ, yeah.
That led to a Liverpool goal as well, did it not?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
It's hard, isn't it?
Because that would have been a penalty as well had it been given as a handball.
Yeah. I remember thinking at the time that it's hard, isn't it? Because you've got to look at decisions. We haven't got to, but you look at decisions previously. Like it's not black and white, is it? It's not obvious. Like so many decisions like that have not been given, and so many that have. And even with VAR, there's still handballs that have been obvious in other games, regardless of the Trent Alexander-Arnold one, that have happened and not been given, and other ones that you think, well, he hasn't obviously handballed it there, and yet it's been given. So it's not conclusive. So in terms of being a Liverpool fan, I remember at the time thinking, I don't think it was handball, but I'm going to think that because I'm a Liverpool fan. I can't. It's hard for me. I can't really put myself as a neutral in that position. I just can't do it because I think I'd always choose not handball. But if it was Man City, then I'd say it was handball.
Yeah, I mean, based on the rules, I mean, his arms away from his body, it clearly hit him. Where was it? Sort of on the wrist, right on the hand. If you're looking at the rule, but you've got to say. So
then why?
Although saying that actually, because I think in the build-up to that, it also hit a Man City player's hand, didn't it? So you'd have to argue both ways.
Silver. Did it hit Silver's arm?
Yeah,
It hit,
Bernardo
it hit
Silva,
Silva's arm first, and then it hit Trent's at hand immediately afterwards. It was almost like hand to hand.
So it would be difficult to argue if you're going to give it a penalty to City. You'd have to say, yeah, but literally a second earlier it hit a Man City hand. So
Which is why I think that's why it got given, not got given, because of that handball before it. I think
just cancel each other out.
I would say that if it hadn't have hit Silva's hand and it had been and they'd given a penalty, it's one of them where you wouldn't have been able to say that's not a penalty because it hit his hand, and I would have said yeah, fair enough, it's a penalty. But if it had been given knowing that it had hit Silva's hand, then I would have been fuming because I would have said, how can you give the penalty when it's come off Silva's hand in the build up? But then in no way during any of that happening did the referee indicate that he'd allowed play to carry on because the two had cancelled each other out, did he? So
no.
Or doesn't he have to? I don't know.
He doesn't have to, I suppose. He doesn't have to clarify. You never have to clarify to the referees.
I just can't imagine the referee going, it's hit Silva's hand, it's now hit Trent's hand. Okay, that's cancelled it out. Let's play on with the game. I just think he's just either not seen it or chosen to not make a decision.
Yeah, I think the VAR had two options. They either let Liverpool's goal stand or they give Liverpool a free kick in their own box. Those were the two options as far as I saw it.
Yeah. Very well. We scored, so that's fine. So discussing the changes for next season then, the ones that we haven't mentioned. So new laws of the game show the word often in relation to an on-field review. The match referee using the pitch side monitor has been removed from the laws for next season. So this is apparently often using it. That was the word that was actually put in the law. In normal language means Premier League referees will be using the pitch side monitors on a much regular basis next season, especially to review an incident that is deemed subjective. What you'll find is next season, from how it reads, they won't be going to Stockley Park. That referee there will not be making the decision. The on-field referee will make the decision. So they can say, oh, you might want to look at this, but then the referee will go and look at that and not let someone else elsewhere make the decision.
So I think that will be beneficial.
Yeah, they're in the heat of the game. They can see what's going on. You know, they may have seen something they were a bit unsure of anyway, and then they can confirm it. You know what I mean? So it's much better for that referee to own that game, whether he makes the right decision or not, whether his decision is debatable to other people. He makes that decision, and that was always the way without VAR, and I think that's the way it should be in the way VAR now is brought in or used or whatever. So I think that's a really good thing. I don't know what you guys think.
So he will go and look at the monitor.
He will be using the monitor most of the time. Stockley Park, unless it's something like blatantly obvious, because obviously it'd be quicker at Stockley Park to go, yeah, he's like 5 yards offside. If it's something that, I don't know why I used my headpiece then when I said that. Yeah, he's offside. Yeah. If it's something that needs to debatable or needs to be checked, whatever, the referee will go and check it more often than not.
I think fans will be able to accept a sort of a decision that's a little bit iffy, a little bit more if the referee makes it.
Yeah,
we can kind of accept human error when the referee makes a mistake in a game before VAR. So if he goes and has a look, makes his own decision, he's the match referee at the end of the day. So if he goes and gives his opinion on what's happened, then we have to accept that, don't we?
Yeah.
If he goes over to the monitor, he makes a decision in the first instance, and then he gets told you might want to go and check that. And if he walks over to the monitor, the side of the pitch, looks at the decision, looks at the action again, sees what's actually happened with it not running at, being at 100 miles an hour, but actually taking a few minutes. Every fan watching it at home in the stadium, nobody's going to complain, because what he's going to do is going to come back onto the pitch and he's going to make the right decision because he's had the chance to go and have a look at it without the immediate kind of stress of it happening in real time, because it's happening so fast that he may not have made the right decision. But if he's been and had a look and then he comes back and says, no, it isn't a penalty, or yes, it is a penalty, having been and had another look, then I don't think anybody's going to mind that bit of time to have a look. The other thing is, I was going to mention, was the only thing that's a bit frustrating is when there might have been a penalty that they want to go and check that's happened down here, but it's then the action's then gone up to the other corner.
Yeah.
ball's gone out like 4 minutes later, and then they're gonna do? They're still then gonna go and look at the monitor and say, actually, 4 minutes later, there's a penalty back, and we're gonna go and give it. It's like, oh, that's hard to take, isn't it? If you're the team on the wrong end of it.
That's what needs to change as well. So there's a game, I can't remember for the life of me now what it was, but there's a game where there's a penalty decision. VAR were reviewing or whatever it happened, and everyone knew it was blatantly a penalty. Even the person on the pitch knew it was probably going to be a penalty, but it was still played out. The other team got down to the end and whatever. It was 2.5 minutes, and eventually then the referee, during actual play, stopped it because it was just embarrassing. Like, it was obviously going to be a penalty, but everyone was just like kicking the ball around. The ball hadn't gone out, and he just stopped it and said, yeah, VAR review, now a penalty. But it took 2.5 minutes. It was like embarrassing.
I think that was a Man City game. I think
Man
it was a
City game.
penalty, yeah. Can't remember who it was against.
That kind of thing can't happen. You know what I mean? If it suggests it could be a penalty, it needs to be stopped then and then.
Do you know what the comparison is that I can make to that is? When you play FIFA and you've got a player who's on a yellow card or something, and the referee and he goes in and makes a really bad tackle, and then you see the referee's playing the advantage on the thing. You think to yourself, don't kick the ball out of play, don't kick the ball out of play, and try and get to the end of the half without kicking the ball, so it's gone long enough that then the referee forgets that you need to go back and book him again.
Exactly. But I don't see how that.
Here's a question. Here's a question.
Go on.
If there's a penalty that VAR is going to give, but the ball hasn't gone out of play yet, and then the other team eventually 2 or 3 minutes later go up the other end and score a goal, do they then allow them to celebrate them scoring the goal, and then the referee goes back then and has the penalty at the other end?
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's mad.
Hasn't that happened? I swear that's happened.
The ultimate kick in the tits.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen? I'm sure that happened in a game this season.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine being like a Premier League player and you've just scored a goal down the other? You know there's going to be a penalty down that other end, but you've just scored. You're running off like doing your sliding on your knees, and then you finish your celebration. Then you have to go off down the other end to go and watch the other team score a fucking penalty again.
It's like a last-minute winner or something.
Yeah. You've just scored the last-minute winner, and you're doing your celebration, and then they go down the other end, and you know after you finish celebrating that there's a chance that they're going to go and equalise, and you're not going to win the league or something.
Yeah. It wasn't that extreme, but it was in a game that happened. They scored, and then they went back and reviewed something else and went, no, penalty down here. It happened. I don't know what.
I think that was a Bournemouth game, Craig.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely happened.
Well, both goals stood though. If penalty,
Bournemouth goal got ruled out, and it was a penalty to the others.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was against.
So it happens. That's why it's so annoying. They need to stop the play there and then and say, look, it's being reviewed. We need to stop because if something else happens, I mean, it just pisses everyone off, doesn't it? But
imagine. And I don't want to reference Liverpool all the time because it'll get boring for people. But imagine if, like me as a Liverpool fan, if I was watching the game and we had a goal disallowed, and then immediately they gave a penalty at the other end and they scored. That's like the biggest kick in the fucking teeth you could imagine, isn't it, in football?
It'd be horrendous. And think about how the players then feel on the pitch. They're just getting motivated to go and score too.
Or if the other way around, if it happened in Liverpool's favour, then everybody would be like, "Oh, Liverpool, the goal disallowed." Then you got a penalty the other end.
Yeah,
madness. Isn't it?
I think you're right. If a decision's going to be reviewed, the sooner the better. There's no point in wasting time, is there?
I think so. And then if it decides that it's not a penalty or whatever, let's have a drop ball, or let's
just get on with it.
Whoever's got possession, kick the ball back to them, and then
I think that's what they've been doing. They just roll the ball back to whoever had possession. And
exactly, every team would prefer that.
I still miss the day. Well, I suppose I miss the days. It probably never happened in my lifetime, but I still miss the idea of the referee dropping the ball and then the two players kicking lumps out of each other to try and win it back.
Yeah, when you were a kid and you used to have drop ball.
Yeah.
Boot each other.
It was, wasn't it? Avoid the ball, kick the player. That's what we got told.
And how many times would it happen that the referee would drop the ball, the two players would swing their legs to try and nail the ball out of the way of the other. Both of them would completely miss the ball. They just whack feet.
Yeah. More often than not, that's what happened. Or you get shaky, hit it outside of his foot and put out for a throw-in every time.
Yeah. Just as an aside, when I was clearing out some stuff today, I found some old football medals. And 2006, there's two medals for the same campaign. And I think the three of us must have been playing together for Red Star. But there was a 7-a-side Sunday Consolation Cup winners, 2006, May 2006. So we must have won the Consolation Cup against somebody. And then in the same season, we also won in May 2006. There was Division 1 Sunday runners up.
Yeah, I remember we got runners up in the league because we got promoted to the top division, didn't we?
Yeah. But we won a cup as well. Where's that?
We won the cup.
I thought we won it with was it Kev? That little Kev guy. I thought we won it with that Andy, when that guy like gouged my eyes out. I thought
was that the PRH one?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Oh, maybe
I think it was. We won a cup, didn't we? Because we were losing by 2 goals, and then we won.
Oh, maybe it wasn't Oakengate. So we did get promoted at Oakengate, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Under my management, I'll tell you what, it's quality.
Didn't I score a penalty in the Consolation Cup final? I think I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
I recall. I think I scored in the final as well. But... Anyway, you got off on a tangent there, which is
back
fine.
to bar.
It's fine. We should talk about my management skills against that team. What are they called? What they want? Ones that weren't very good at all.
Fireflies.
Fireflies, yeah.
Fireflies.
Like 2 minutes, we hadn't even scored, and I was like, "Come on, did you do crap?"
We'll talk. Maybe more interestingly, we should talk about your refereeing of under 10s football.
When I sent that fat kid off handball on the line, he cried.
Before it happened, the manager come running on the pitch and said he's only 10. You know, go easy on him. This is only young kid football. You went, yeah, that's fine, mate. And then you ushered everybody off the pitch, turned round, and then pulled the red out of the back pocket.
I think you've exaggerated that story slightly. However,
rules are rules, Craig.
Rules are rules. He needs to learn from an early age. You can't get away with it, can he?
No, that's true.
Exactly.
Anyway, VAR.
It was a shame. He needed a run out. So yeah, VAR. There's only really one other rule change, gentlemen, and it's only regarding penalty kicks, which is a bit of a boring one, really. Goalkeeper moving off his line before kicks taken will only be punished if the penalty is saved by the keeper.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Although, what about?
So listen. So should the penalty be missed, either wide off the post or bar, or hit over, then the spot kick will not be retaken, regardless of any movement from the goalkeeper. So it's only if the goalkeeper's off his line and he saves it.
I don't really agree with that.
I struggle with this a little bit, and I mean, there's extremes of it, because there's obviously 2005 Champions League final. A lot of people are still saying that Jersey Dudek only made some of the saves he did because he came jumping off his line. How many goalkeepers were jumping off their line though? Pretty much every single goalkeeper. But having said that, like when a goalkeeper dives to make a save, how can he not be kind of forward? Because unless you're literally like going very, very like 90 degrees to the side or whatever, I don't know. It just seems
they can dive forward. They just, when the kick's taken, their feet can't be off the line. That's all.
1 foot's on the line. Is it 1 foot?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, as long as one of their feet are on the line.
So could it be then that the best plan is for the keeper to have both his feet like behind the goal line, so he's actually in the goal, so that when he starts the jump, he can go forward maybe or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So he makes his last jump on the line and then goes either way. Yeah.
Well, isn't it more advantage for the player if they're further back? And because the whole point of going forward is it kind of reduces the space down there.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? I mean, as long as the keeper's on the line, then it's fair for everyone.
You don't think it kind of disadvantages the goalkeeper a little bit though, doesn't it? Because it makes the goalkeeper's position in that situation a lot more static, and it's more difficult for them to feel like they've got the freedom to move as they need to try and save the penalty.
It's hard enough to save an advantage for the attacking side, isn't it?
It's hard enough to save a penalty in bloody any scenario, isn't it? So you in a position there where you're going to penalise him for moving a bit off his line. I don't know.
I know, but the thing is, rules are rules, aren't they? You gotta stick to it. I guess. I mean,
you got to try and make everything as fair as possible for every team, and I guess that's the only way of doing it.
Yeah. I loved a bit of the old intimidation, especially the keeper stands on the line and then he's slapping the crossbar, so the crossbar's like going like this before the penalty gets taken, giving him a bit of intimidation. But
that's a decent one.
I mean, I find it quite funny when you've got the likes of Pickford, for example, he wasn't the largest goalkeeper, stretching his arms like he
Can't
could
touch the
fill the goal.
crossbar, can
He
he?
can't reach the bar, can he, Pickford?
It's me trying to fill the goal. It's like, no, mate, it's not intimidating at all. Just stand there. There's no point in trying to make yourself look big. It's just not going to happen. But otherwise, I think that rule's fair enough. If they miss it wide or over, then it's not the goalkeeper's fault for getting off the line, is it? So
Depends how far off the line they are. They might have really quite put them off.
Well, if they run at them, Chris, I think they're probably.
That should be a thing,
They'd
yeah.
probably just allow it and retake it. But okay, well that's the VAR stuff. Talking about celebrations after the VAR, so we'll never see the likes of these celebrations again. But I spoke to you guys about celebrations and looking at celebrations and what your favourites were. But yeah, as I say, I don't even know if we'll see these kind of things again because it won't be spontaneous unless the players know for definite that it's a definite goal. But how can you say that now with so many different possibilities of it being ruled out? Christopher, give me one of your favourite celebrations ever from a footballer.
Okay. Let's see. I made a couple of notes.
Oh, he's made some notes, has he?
Here's my favourite out. I'll tell you a celebration I absolutely love.
Go on.
Robbie Keane's.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. The old roly-poly and the guns.
Yeah.
Good one.
You saw it a lot. World-class goal scorer, and just what a celebration that is.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Wish he'd stayed at Liverpool longer.
He wasn't doing a celebration at Liverpool, was he?
No, he didn't score. Andy?
I've got two favourite. I've got two favourites, Liverpool ones, and then I've got a more couple of general ones. So I'll go Steven Gerrard kissing the camera at Old Trafford, classic.
Yeah.
Not
a good celebration though, is it? I mean, it's not a good celebration though, is it?
It is. He's got it's the level of in a celebration. There's the cockiness of the celebration. You know, the outpouring of emotion, and there's also the kind of the shithousery element of it as well.
So, I know, but unhygienic, isn't it?
I like Steven Gerrard kissing the camera. It's iconic.
He did leave a good lip print on the camera, didn't he?
Go for it, didn't he?
Yeah,
go on then.
His lip gloss came off.
He did. Puckered up. Go on, Andrew. Next one.
My second favourite from a Liverpool perspective was Luis Suarez at Goodison Park in the Merseyside derby when he'd been accused of diving. He scored a goal and then ran over to the touchline and did a swan dive right in front of the Everton manager, who I think was it Moisey then or somebody else?
I think it was Moisey, because he'd accused him of diving, didn't he?
Just went over a massive swan dive in front of him, which I just thought the level of shithousery there was decent.
I've got the classic Suarez celebration.
Oh yeah. Kiss. You got to kiss about 10 things first.
Yeah.
I always liked the Brazilian. This one back in was that 1990 World Cup, or I don't know if it was later than that, maybe 94 World Cup.
I don't remember.
Remember they all stood next to each other and went like this.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah.
Then we've got the old Roger Milla Cameroon by the corner flag doing the old
knees. Yeah.
And then finally, and you'd probably be surprised by me saying this, and this is again for the level of shithousery, self-indulgence, arrogance. Cristiano Ronaldo's celebration, the run and then the jump up in the air and the whatever it is he does. It's like it's all about me type thing, isn't it? So
the best one for that, another Man United player, was Eric Cantona's when he scored that.
The collar up moment with the.
He just sort of look round like.
Oh, when he scored that lob off the post.
Just
so good.
It just turned around. It's just perfect, wasn't it? It's just perfect celebration.
Yeah. That was against us as well.
Hey?
That was against us.
Well, that's why I remember it probably. Any more, Chris?
Alan Shearer.
Oh yeah. The Adolf Hitler salute.
Andrew. Unbelievable.
What do you reckon to Jesse Lingard?
Oh, no.
Or what's it? Deli Alley.
Danny Alley, this one, isn't it?
Can't do it. Like this.
I can't remember how to do it. Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue. Jesse Lingard, does he have a celebration?
Yeah, yeah, he does that.
Does
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
Has he ever scored?
Huh?
I'm gonna
He's
say.
scored for about 2 years, hasn't he?
Yeah, must be.
He just whenever Anthony Martial scores, he just runs over and does his own celebration.
Got the Gareth Bale.
Oh yeah, got the Gareth Bale one.
Oh, I've got that written down. Gareth
Lionel
Bale.
Lionel Messi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
iconic.
I'll throw a few in.
Go on.
So you got Jimmy Bullard, the old
Oh.
Phil Brett.
They're telling them off.
Yeah,
Against Man City.
classic. Shout out Peter Crouch, the old.
Oh, the old
Yeah.
robot.
Well, Robbie Fowler, snorting the line.
The dirty bugger.
I know, shocking. Klinsmann dive. Come on,
Of course.
Klinsmann
Yeah.
dive.
Been dive.
Iconic that.
Yeah.
Many a time. You definitely have celebrated with a Klinsmann dive.
Oh yeah, we've all done it.
I believe, certainly the Premiership anyway, Ravanelli was the first one to put his shirt over his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, Ravanelli. And then my favourite, Euro 96.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Paul Gascoigne.
Oh, the old.
The water in the mouth. Yeah.
Quality celebration that.
Just thought of another one that you two are going to enjoy. You mentioned it last week or a couple of weeks ago. Tim Cahill.
Oh yeah,
Boxing the corner flag.
Yeah,
that's a good
great,
one.
great celebration.
Oh,
Rooney did the old boxing in the corner as well, didn't he?
That was after he got knocked out, wasn't it, by Phil Bardsley?
Was
Yeah.
it?
Was it?
Yeah, there was a video come out of him. He's good friends with Phil Bardsley. He was boxing. He was like sparring with him in his kitchen or something, and Phil Bardsley caught him and like knocked him to the floor or something. So that week, Rooney scored and did that celebration.
Ah, there we are. I didn't know the background to that.
Yeah. You learn something new.
There you go.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, gents. That concludes.
Can you just check? Have we had any emails or comments come through while we've been on the? Oh no, we can't have because it's not live, is it?
It's not live, Andrew. No one has seen it yet.
Oh shit.
So I know. If we were, then I'm sure we've had many comments.
Can
We
you
would have had.
just check that YouTube comment that you mentioned before? What was that
I
all about?
wouldn't like to at this moment in time mention said person with your comment because I think the said person is mocking us slightly. So I don't think there's much point in.
Maybe we'll mention it next week.
We'll mention it next week. Yes.
I don't care if they are mocking us as long as they share it with their. If they got loads of followers, then we can get a load of other people to mock us as well. I don't care. At least there's people watching it.
I mean, I'd rather not, but I think we sound a bit desperate here. And does anyone share it? Share it. I don't care what channel it's on. It could be on Sewing. It could be on anything. Just throw us out there. Anyone can view us.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That concludes it.
What?
Get this all loaded and then come up with an agenda for next week. If anyone wants to help and give us some sort of topic to talk about, football related, could be anything. Could just be one.
How can they get in contact with us?
So Facebook, Afternoon Delight, CCA. You can go and email if you want to.
What's the address?
Afternoon Delight CCA at hotmail.com. Twitter account. Now, I'm not great on Twitter, if I'm being honest. I'm not a pro on Twitter. I think our Twitter is at Delight CCA because I don't think Afternoon Delight was allowed. I don't know if it allowed or couldn't have that used, whatever. So I think it's Delight CCA at Delight CCA. But I'll get that checked into Andy. You might have to have a look at that. And yeah, just if anyone wants to put anything, discuss anything, argue against anything we say, talk about how biased we are against, like for Liverpool, that's fine. Just some sort of comment that we can react to would be great.
Any feedback is good feedback.
Indeed. So thanks again, gents, and we'll be back again next week. with
back even hashtag back even stronger.
back even stronger with something. We'll wait and see.
Two final comments. Number one, we've managed to do it just under. Well, we're going to go just over an hour, but that's progress. And secondly, if we go on too much longer, Chris is going to wee himself.
Okay, as am I. So we'll end it right there.
Okay, have a good
Okay.
one. Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Cheers,
Wash
guys.
your hands.
Much love. Like and subscribe.
Ta-ra a bit.
Hang on.
Hold a minute. So is he recording? It's just ending. So he's
Still
recording.
It's still recording.
Still recording. He's just gone.
What's he done there for?
I don't know. I don't know how to end it.
Should we leave now?
Yeah, let's leave now.
Okay.
Goodbye, Chris.
Bye.
Bye bye.